Good morning, this is Usha speaking. Hi, I'm standing here outside because there's such a wonderful tree in the background. Look, it's a huge tree. Today I'd like to talk about what I call new indigenous tribe. So, there's so many developments, so many technological developments going on, and so much artificial, how do you say, imprinting, in our way of life on so many levels. There's so many toxins out there, so many chemicals, it's very hard to live a natural life. And this is what I feel comfortable with. This is what I feel, is I don't know, just natural for me as a human being, right? So I've been thinking about that a lot, and I've been, trying to live a natural life as much as I can for many years. And, there's of course this whole development, called transhumanism, where we, as humans are becoming less and less human and more, robotic or, controlled by technology. And most people do not really seem to mind, or they do not seem to be aware of it. And there's of course always temptation, because when there's something like an technology being offered, there's often, it has a great upside to it, that's a temptation. So it's really easy, right? It's easy to just carry your mobile phone around, it's easy maybe to have a smart meter in your house, a smart this, that, it's also the way it's presented. And so it's very easy to fall into these traps, and of course it's easy to just grab some processed food, for example. It's much easier than, making a wholesome meal with fresh ingredients, pure ingredients yourself. So, but the world, it's become so artificially imprinted that I felt that people like me, and there's quite a few out there, people who want to live naturally, I think we could be called something like the new indigenous people, new indigenous tribe. Oh, I'm sorry, it's windy season. This is not even strong wind. It can be pretty extreme out here. But the new indigenous tribe, because you see, I think indigenous people, they have a very clear sense of identity. I mean, indigenous people, there aren't many left, of what we used to call indigenous. So they are a tribe. And they have a very strong sense of community, of tradition, of the arts as well. They have a strong connection to the spiritual, to nature, and so to their heritage. They know very well who they are, and they feel very connected to God, the spiritual, and to each other. And these people are very strong, and I think that often, they have been corrupted. So they have, they were conquered, and they were, the children were taken away by the parents, and they were alienated by of their own culture. So they have been weakened, and because there's great strength in knowing who you are and feeling connected and having a great sense of community. You'll be like that. That's being like a great big tree, like the one standing in the background, and this means you're not so easily manipulated or controlled when you are authentic. When you have integrity, when you're authentic, and when you know who you are, and and you're using your potential, and you feel loyal to each other. And so if you look at at the West, and increasingly in other societies worldwide, you can see that all these aspects of indigenous life, that they have been weakened. And so what remains really is a society that is isolated, that is fragmented, that is, people who are lost, who feel weak, who do not feel a sense of belonging, they do not feel connected to a higher knowing, a higher source. They've lost sort of so much. They've lost so much knowledge as well, and they're become so dependent on outside external factors, And so I was thinking, people like us, I think, yes, we could be called the new Indigenous Tribe. And I'm not really so fond of labels, so I'm not trying to label anything. I'm just, these words, they carry meaning. So I was just thinking about that in this, to want to live a natural life and all the values that are part of that, these days could be called indigenous, because there aren't many people left like that, who I don't know, feel close to nature, who want to cook their own food, or live in an authentic way. And I'm not saying all technology is bad, I'm not saying that, but I think that when it starts to corrupt, it can be like a poison. You know what I mean? It takes responsibility, it takes wisdom to handle certain advancements, to handle certain technology, for example. So it is really presented to us as something that is civilized, something that's sort of making us grow. But I think there's also a great downside to it, and we need to really think very carefully how we want to live our lives and what the consequences are. So, this goes for housing, for medicine, for education, our food, the way we consume things, our values, So I feel they're all greatly corrupted, and because they come in the disguise of something very attractive, something very easy. It's very easy to be corrupted by it. It's a temptation. And I find it, I'm not perfect, not at all. It's difficult for me too. And I don't really see it as a goal, to sort of, because we are living in certain times, so I don't feel that everything, unnatural is necessarily bad. This would be too one-sided. You know what I mean? It's life is not as simple as that. It's really not. So it really takes a lot of thinking and analyzing and experimenting on your own part, to see how you want to live your life and how you want to raise your children and how you want to live in a community. But I just thought that, yes, sometimes in this world, I do feel like an indigenous person, and I do feel like connecting to other people who also have a certain frame of mind feels like my tribe, and and then on top of that, I'm half Indian, so I guess I can get away with the term indigenous as well, really well. I am indigenous. But I also feel that things like the applied arts and the art, it's and traditional sort of skills such as hunting or cooking, but also singing and dancing and making furniture, building naturally, these are, it's so important to sort of pass them over in generations. What if we can't do all this anymore? I feel it's kind of, it does make sense sometimes to go back in time and to sort of value all these skills too. And because I'm not sure about this whole apocalyptic, doomsday, like when the shit hits the fan. But I do think that we've become too dependent on external sources and big parties, big companies, big government. So I do think that it's not wise to give it all out of your hands, to be so dependent And just think of the food supply chain, you know. I mean, in a couple of days, it's only a matter of days and the supermarkets are empty. So what are you going to do? So yeah, anyway, so I'm digressing a little bit too much. I guess you get my point. Yeah, so, and I'm also not trying to divide, you know, like I'm not, you know, we're all here together, so we're all one tribe, right? And yeah, so it's just something I thought about, you know, that with the changing of times, that a person like me, to me, I'm very normal, and what is normal, I'm not sure, like adhering to a norm. But anyway, so just a person like me, I mean, what kind of times are we living in that I'm starting to feel like an indigenous person, you know? And I mean, indigenous people, they've been murdered, right? They've been hunted down. And, you know, when the whole COVID thing started and they were going to hunt down people who weren't vaccinated, you know, I mean, one of our, you know, political leaders even said, we're going to find out where the unvaxxed people live. And I'm not sure if he said we're going to hunt them down, but he said something like, we know where they live. You know, it's like, oh my God, yeah, this is starting to look like some indigenous hunt, you know. And yeah, so I just use the term to clarify a few things here and there. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.